Alright, welcome back everybody. Part 2 of our third Great Turkish War Skirmish battle. Since filming, I honestly don't remember what turn I left off on. I'm sorry I've been delayed making the follow-up to continue the game, but I think we'll start with the Austrians. I think that's where we left off. And I do have to make, I think, a few corrections because these guys were locked up in combat last time, so I think they had to retreat. And I forgot to do that. So 3 inches. And going back, we just have to fall back a few inches. And so, yeah, so I think we're going to continue with the Austrians. Just a quick recap. The first opening rounds of this battle, just doing a pitched battle in our little Pikeman's Lament campaign was the rules we're using if this is the first time you're watching. So we're on the third game of the campaign. We've got our Austrian lieutenant, and he is over here. And during the last game, they managed to, his small detachment was able to drive this Turkish force out of this village, but now they've sort of moved to the outer part of the village, and they realize they're about to get attacked by a larger Turkish company, so now the Turks have moved in, and they're slugging it out. No real, like, different objectives for this one. It's just a pitched battle, just saying how it'll go. So, since we're going to start with the Austrians, I think, and we will see what they can do. The Turkish side, these Janissaries are wavering, and the cavalrymen had to retreat, so there's been a little back and forth between the two. So let's see, I think our Austrian line is going to shoot, let's see, 18 and 18, and most units need 7 to activate on shooting, so I think our lieutenant's unit, they're going to go ahead and fire their muskets into those Janissaries. Maybe they can activate, and they'll get a bonus because that's the officer's unit. Yep, they activate, so, and they're at full strength, so they're going to get, well, not quite full strength, but they're going to get 12 shots. Okay, so successful volley from our Habsburg line infantrymen to those Janissaries. So they've taken, so I had to remove a base because they've taken a total of 4 casualties, plus they took two additional casualties. So that put them at, they rolled low on their morale, and that left them with 0, and so that unit is routed from the table. So that's a pretty good outcome for our Habsburgs early in the game. So these Janissaries have been killed in action, and I think that will give the pike maybe some impetus to advance into that line of advancing Janissaries. So we will, let's see if they can activate. Only going to need a 5 to activate for movement, so nope, no activation. That's a 3. So Austrian turns over, but it wasn't all wasted. They cleared a section of Janissaries, and now since it's the Ottoman turn, let's flip the camera. Now that we're looking from the Turkish side, I think our Janissaries here, which you cannot see, let me zoom out. Our advancing Janissaries here, I think they're going to want to try and fire back, so they're going to do that. Wow, double ones. Okay, so no activation, and I think that means our Turkish commander, who's behind them, that are going to have to do a test. So, double one on an ordered activation test. So they're going to have to roll. We're going to have to roll another dice, and let's see, we got a 6. Officer acts without panache and loses 1 honor from his total score in this mission. So, if the Turks manage to win, they're only going to get 4. The Turkish commander's only going to get 4 experience points, honor points, instead of the usual 5 for winning the game. So, that's another blunder. And I've said this in every video, but I think this is what makes this set of rules really great for doing pike and shot skirmish. Is the random activations help a lot and keeps things moving. And, you know, it's not just a I go, you go slugfest, even though it is alternating turns. You know, not all your forces might activate, obviously, and, you know, you might have something happen like that. So we'll go back to the Austrian side, and hopefully the pike can actually advance. I should just add as a historical note as I'm rolling here, yes, 7, so they're going to advance. The 1680s, there's some anachronistic kind of elements to this force, as I understand the tactics at the time. Obviously, my scenario is sort of imaginative. We've got a mixed regulars with some like local militia troops, and then the cavalry, we're saying they're like regular cavalrymen. In reality, at this point, probably wouldn't have been as many pike units in play in the field. So I'm just going to advance these guys up, and hopefully they'll be able to make contact with these Janissaries, but they might also get gunned down, potentially. But pike are pretty tough in Pikeman's Lament, so maybe not. The stamina 3 really helps them survive. And obviously, I mentioned this in previous videos, but these Janissaries, the figures are a little, a little anachronistic for the period. Would have been slightly more of it. They had a camp. By this point, the Janissaries had a campaign dress, which Warfare Miniatures USA, who made these really nice Ottoman Sekban musketeers that I have, they have a really excellent later Ottoman range that's good for, that has the correct campaign dress. By the late 17th century, this was more of a dress uniform. They might have used it in the field. Let me see if I can get that to focus. They might have used it in the field, but you know, I'm not quite sure. And also in reality, I have the Janissaries, which are more for like late 16th century in blue, because that was the cloth they were given. But yeah, you see in the miniature paintings all different kinds of colors, the Ottoman miniature paintings. You know, so it's kind of hard to figure out what was consistent and what wasn't. And unfortunately, you know, the historians that work on this stuff aren't really interested in the kind of details that maybe a wargamer would be interested in. Like, well, what color was the, you know, were Janissary uniforms, or did the units have different, you know, colors that they would pick, the different regiments? You know, I'm not quite sure, and maybe there's something written about it out there. But you know, we're just not sure. And one last note on this little historical tangent. Probably in a force during the Great Turkish War on the Ottoman side, you would have had a lot more of these sort of provincial or like mercenary musketeers. So these are Sekban, which was one of the names for them, just sort of provincial mercenaries that are recruited by the governors, who are also the military commanders, to fight in the provincial armies. But you also have another type of troop that I don't unfortunately have, that were very much a part of the Ottoman forces at this time, which were called tüfekçi. So they were kind of like dragoons. They could, they could, these guys could be dismounted tüfekçi, but they could fight either mounted or dismounted. That was another type of Ottoman troop. But of course, there still were the armored cavalry, not as many or as important as they had been in previous centuries, but still there, of course. And the Crimean Tatars were quite, important to the Ottomans until the 18th century, roughly. Anyway, that's there's a little historical tangent as we play through the game. I would like to have eventually a nice, nice sort of period accurate forces for both sides. But, just kind of working with what I've got and being kind of imaginative. It's just, this is an area of wargaming that doesn't really get a lot of focus, and, I'm just trying to do what I can to help, make people aware of it, because I think it's really rich, and there's a lot of scenarios you can do. And it's very colorful, like all pike and shot warfare is. So, okay, so our pikemen, our Austrian pike advanced, so hopefully they can make contact with those Janissaries. I think we've got our cavalry over there. They probably want to fight, charge into the Spahi again. And I think our musketeers, our line infantry, which, let me back the camera up. Sorry about getting the other stuff in the background. Okay, that's a better shot. Our line infantry is going to advance, so let's see if they can activate. Yep, 10, so no problem there. So I think they're just going to advance. That might put them in range of getting hit by cavalry, but I'm not sure. So, but I think they will advance. They're just going to advance. And get into position. And try and support those pikemen. And then I think over here, our cavalry is going to face off. Let me zoom in. There we go. Okay, cavalry's going to go ahead and face off. So, take a look at the rules here. What do we need? What do our cavalry need to charge? And I think our Turkish cavalry are also going to countercharge. So, okay, so on an attack, gallopers only need a 5, which is really good. So, yep, 5. They just get in, and then our Spahi are going to roll for a countercharge. And they need a 7. Nope, no countercharge. Only got a 4, and so that means our Austrian cavalry, I think they have a 10-inch movement, so I don't really need to measure. I think they're just going to charge in. Try and got their sabers out, and they're gonna get in there and get stuck in with those Turkish cavalry and try and slow them down, hopefully. All right. And one bit of reading material that I need to probably take a look at again is Austria's Wars of Emergence. And I forget the author's name. It's a long German last name, Hosch. I'm not going to try and butcher it, but Austria's Wars of Emergence. I've talked about that book, I think, on the channel before. Really interesting. Not very satisfying in some ways, because a lot of the details for this period that, again, would be interesting to wargamers just haven't really been researched by, you know, by the scholars that know the languages and the sources that well, unfortunately. But that's a pretty good book. It gives an overview of Austrian warfare, the Habsburg Empire, basically from around the period we're gaming today, 1680s to 18th century, late 18th century. So, all right, anyway, another little historical tangent. So our cavalry are going to attack. But my point is just trying to figure out, you know, what the Austrian cavalry were like in this period is kind of hard, because the point I guess I was trying to lead up to was you have a lot of information on the 30 Years' War, a little bit on, you know, our period, Great Turkish War, in English, I should say. But then, you know, you don't really get a lot of good, solid information, again, that's accessible until you get into the later 18th century. So, like the 7 Years' War and Napoleonic period, of course, because Austria was a main, and you know, probably the main antagonist, really, against Napoleon. Even though Britain, you know, gets more attention, but you know, it's sort of one of those gaps in the historical literature that's hard to deal with sometimes for, you know, building wargame armies and stuff. All right, so we're gonna roll these, and Gallopers need Gallopers hit on a 4, which is really good in Pikeman's Lament if you can hit on a 4. So maybe they can rout this unit, or at least get them to retreat. So, okay, they inflicted two more casualties onto the Turks, so that brings them up to 3. And then our Turkish cavalrymen need to roll to defend, and they're going to defend on a 5. So we've got, okay, our Spahi rolled pretty well in their defense. So that is a, okay, that's a tie. So they both inflicted 2 casualties. And I believe in Pikeman's Lament that the tie goes to the defender, so let's see. Okay, yep, so tie goes to the defender, so our, let's see, so our Austrian cavalry, they're going to have to remove a base, because they, let's see, they are, oh, actually, they may be almost wiped. Wow, wasn't paying attention. So, yeah, that's 5, so they're down to 1 man. Yeah, 5 casualties, so they're down to 1 man. Okay, so our Austrian cavalry had to retreat directly away. They're down to 1 man, and they actually did succeed in their morale check. They rolled a 9, need a 3+ for Galloper cavalry on morale. So still that 1 horseman's in the fight, but our Spahi also have to take a morale check, and they've suffered 3 casualties. So that's 8, and they're okay, but they've taken. I'm going to remove a base since they've taken, and so they're at half strength, so they're only going to get to roll half their dice. And I think I goofed, and the Austrian cavalry should have rolled half their dice, but yeah, that's a mistake. So just going to put those casualties up. Okay, not a very successful attack, but I think our next move, I think our musketeers, our militia musketeers, who are not as well trained, they're going to go ahead and move up. So 8, so I think they want to move, they're going to want to move to cover this flank and protect the artillery. And I think they're just going to move up and get into position. Let me try and get a better angle here with the guns. And again, if you're new to Pikeman's Lament, or you just found this or something, the rulebook says, you know, it's designed for individually based miniatures, but you know, you can use bases. It's not a big deal, but it just if you're doing like mainly smaller games like this, it might be helpful to have the individual bases with movement trays, because you know they can do maneuvers like this. The rules are designed for kind of more skirmishing action, so they don't have to be in a formation necessarily, which is nice. So that's what's going on there. And then our last move, because this is always kind of hard to do. Our cannon, they're going to try and fire 90 degree firing arc. So I think they are going to try and fire at the cavalry back there, maybe. The board is kind of tight, so let's see if they can even do it. Need an 8, nope, 7, so they're not going to shoot, so that ends the Austrian turn. You know, artillery in these rules, it's kind of hard to use, but I think that's good. So you know, it's just not, it just doesn't dominate the board. All right, now our Ottomans. So I think our Janissaries here are going to fire at the, let me get better, there we go. So Janissaries here are going to fire into the, I think they're going to fire into the pike. And 6, I don't think that actually is a successful activation, which may give them a, may give the pikemen an opening. So veteran, yep, they need a 7 to shoot even though they're elite, so no activation. And back to the Austrians, who are going to turn it right over to the pike, and they're going to try and dice to attack. And they need, let's see, they need a 7 to attack, but they are within range of their commanders, so they're going to get, let's see, yep, so they're going to get a +1 to whatever they roll. 8, so the Austrians have been doing pretty well. Okay, so they're just going to move in, and they're going to charge with their pikes into those Janissaries, and since they're above half strength, they're going to roll more dice. And their attack value is 5. And the Janissaries' defend value is also 5, so not sure. It's like this could go either way. And as I'm doing this, the Ottomans never really used pikes. There were some halberdier troops, but in the depictions, the miniature paintings from the court, and the, oh, that's a 4, and that sort of thing, there's really not that much, you know, not really many use of pike. I would be interested if I could find maybe a primary source that had the Ottoman point of view on Westerners using pikes, because obviously them fighting the Spanish a lot in the 16th century with the tercios. I'd be curious to see what their view on pikemen were. But the Janissaries mainly used volley fire with their muskets, so that was their sort of preferred tactic. Okay, so our Ottomans, our Janissary line there, they took 3 casualties. So put three of these wooden bases down, casualty markers. So they took 3, but of course they're going to roll to defend, and let's see what they can do with their swords, which is what they were typically armed with. And they need a 5 as well. But they're up against Pike, and Pike are pretty strong. They've got stamina 3, shots only stamina 2. Let's see. Yep, so one additional casualty on the Pike, but that means they lost the melee. So we're gonna have to fall back 3 inches directly back. So they're going to file back this way, and they have to stay out of range of the enemy unit. But that sort of put them in an awkward spot because they're kind of clipping against the militia musketeers, or the Sekban musketeers, provincial musketeers there, a little bit, so they're falling back. I'm going to have to take a morale test, but our Pike are going to have to do a morale check too, so, and I believe Pike and Shot are both the same morale. Let me see. Morale 4. Yep, okay, they're both the same. So we're going to do Janissaries first. They're going to get a 1, +1. Actually, no, because of the house rule. No bonuses from the commander, because they don't like cavalry, and Janissaries don't get along. So let's see, -3, and they rolled an 11, so they're okay. And our pikemen, let's see how they do. 7, -3. And they will get a +2 from their officer if they're in range. Let's see. Yes, they're just in range, so, yep, so they also pass their morale check, and they're still fighting with no problem. Okay, now I think our line musketeers here, they are going to... again, no firing arcs in these rules, so we're just going to imagine they've kind of shifted, maybe fighting in a little, shifting, maybe firing in a little more open order. I wish the Warlord Marlburian infantry had some firing poses, but anyway, they just shifted, and they're going to fire into those guys, so we'll see if they can activate. Nope, no activation on that line infantry, so that might leave them open for an attack. And now we're on the Ottoman turn again. So I think our Tatars, our Ottoman commander, sensing an opening, he's going to send the Tatars in to do a little skirmish against those infantrymen. So yep, 9. So they're going to be successful, and they're just going to move up 6. And they're going to shoot their bows into those infantrymen there. And just like in the last games, if you're new, we're treating the Tatars as just as dragoons for rules wise. And let's see, Dragoons, they hit on a 5. So let's see how many hits we get. So against our line infantry, 2 casualties, unfortunately. And I have to test a 4, but they get a +2 from being in range of their officer. That's his trait. So, yep, so they're in range. And it's a 6 -2 is 4. So just, they get, you know, just past the morale check, you know, but probably a little shaken, we can imagine, from having to stand there while there's a hail of arrow fire. Okay, and now I think our cavalry, they're going to try and hammer in to this opening here. So let's see how this dice roll goes. 8. So yes, they do dice to attack. And they can move 10 inches, so I think that should give them enough room. Yeah, that should be enough room, so they're going to get in. But they are at half strength, so this could go well for the musketeers. So they only get 6 dice instead of 12. 4, 5, 6. Course sitting on a 4. Okay, 2 casualties, and then our musketeers get their full strength dice, and they are defending, I believe. Let me see, check before I say the wrong thing. So they are defending, and they are inexperienced, but I think that only affects their shooting. Defend. Yep, defend. Defense on a 5. Okay. So, asking for some prayers of intercession, maybe, to withstand this attack. Okay, they inflict, okay, not bad. 1 casualty on the, let's see, route on markers. Okay, well, that removes a basic of, oh, these pikes are kind of hard to keep on the figures. So that removes 1 base of cavalry. And that means, let's see, and the shot took 1 casualty themselves. So I'm out of tokens. Let me, 1 second. Okay, just going to use that RPG die I have that I picked up for bolt action. So they took 1, but now we're going to have to do morale tests. Well, first, our attackers have to retreat since they lost the melee, so they're going to go back 3. And they're going to take a morale check at a -5. And they're below half strength, so I believe that's also an additional -1. So, wait a second, let's see. Okay, now that I was not correct, it's if the company, the whole company is at a -1. Alright, so they got a 10 and they need a 3+. They've lost 5 out of 6. So they still survive. And our shot there also have to test 7. And they only lost 1, so they're fine. Okay. So I think I'm gonna, this is running really long, so I'm gonna wrap this part up here. I think we had some good action on both sides. Still not sure who will win. Now, the Ottomans lost a wing of cavalry, which isn't very good, and they also lost a unit of Janissaries. But they've got both units of Tatars, which they're just dragoons, but they can still make an impact. They've got the lead cavalry unit is still waiting in the wings in reserve. Got another unit of musketeers and another unit of Janissaries that they're just kind of hanging back. And we have, but our Austrian force is also in reserve. They've got some stuff in reserve. So we've got another unit of cavalry, and we've got another unit of shot hanging back. So if they need to pull up, and we've also got the gun there. So I think this has been a pretty good game, and thanks to everybody that's been watching all the parts, and you know, I hope you guys like it, and if there's one, you know, little goal I just have doing these battle reports, I'd say, you know, play pike and shot era warfare, you know, 1500 to 1700 roughly, and you know, take a look at doing some Ottoman and Habsburg scenarios, or Ottoman and Poland. What else? You could do, you know, you could do naval stuff against, you know, between Spain and Spain and the Ottomans. You know, there's Lepanto, of course, but there's more than just that. All kinds of naval actions. Charles V's invasion of Tunisia, which I think that'd be awesome for me to war game someday. I think that would make a great convention game. All kinds of stuff. That's my point. Yeah, this part ran a little long, but there's a lot going on and just a lot I wanted to talk about. So hope you all like this one. And if you have any suggestions, of course, comment, and talk to you all in the next part.